Hello, dear students. I wish you to have a very wonderful day. So we can see in Unit 1 of Myth and Literature, Ovid is a storyteller. His full name is Publius Ovidius Naso, and he is known as Ovid. And he lived during the period between 43 BCE and 17 CE, 17 BCE. And he was one of the most celebrated poets of ancient Rome. And Ovid did so great a thing to epic. He gifted epic with imagination, transformation, and a psychological depth. And as he was a very good storyteller, he helped the Western world understand mythology and what narrative art is. And he could do this through his work called Metamorphosis. He did not merely retell the myth, but he was able to reimagine them, and he breathed emotional and human complexity into ancient tales. He could explore all the human complexities and he expressed them through his ancient tales in his epic. So now we can see the features of Ovid as a storyteller. So he got this narrative playfulness and wit. He used irony, humor, and satire in his stories, and it distinguished him from other epic poets like Virgil and Homer. And they were very sensitive and very formal, very dignified. And Ovid was different from them in many aspects. He was able to engage the readers to keep suspense in his tales with the clever turning points and unexpected endings. And he presented the tales in a light tone and a little irreverence could be found in his tales. Ovid was able to empathize with his characters. He was the one who could give voice to the traditionally marginalized and silent figures in his epics. For example, in heroines, the mythic heroines like Penelope, Dido, and Medea write passionate letters and they could express their longing, betrayal, and inner conflict through those letters. He helped them articulate their feelings through the letters. The second important feature is the psychological depth we find in his epic. In the episodes that are integrated in his epic. He succeeded in exploring the emotional condition of his characters, as he was the one who was gifted with the modern sensitivity. He could make his myths timeless, permanent, universal, because he could bring out love, desire, jealousy, and grief. These are the common feelings that can be found in a normal human being, and they can be found in his epic, and they appeal to the people of even today all over the world. Third important characteristic of his epic is layered narratives. So he provided embedded storytelling. And what do we mean by embedded storytelling? They are stories within stories. He made one character narrate a tale to another. This is how the stories were handed down or passed down from one generation to another generation. And during that time, they underwent some transformation also. Could we see Ovid's contribution to mythology? And Ovid's Metamorphosis contains 15 books, and it's a narrative form, and it contains over 250 myths. He succeeded in making it one of the most comprehensive mythological texts from antiquity. They are honored and read even now, even today in many universities. Next one is systematic compilation. He was able to put together different kinds of myths into one continuous narrative. The stories covered the episodes from the creation to the end of the world. And he gave importance to the deification of Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was regarded as divine. So we can now think about Ovid's style and methods. So we find elegiac and epic fusion in his epic. Metamorphosis is an epic in structure, but the language and tone of the poem, long poem, resemble elegiac poetry because he combined grandeur with intimacy. Unlike other epic poets like Virgil or Homer, his visual imagery has impressed his readers over the centuries. So his poetic descriptions in the epic are very vivid, very clear, and painterly pictorial. And they could bring the visual picture to the minds of the readers, like paintings. And even we could see that the epic is cinematic in scope. It has a very wide scope, like cinema. Because he has made his stories appealing to artists and audience across centuries. Why can't we consider the allusions and intertextuality shared in his epic? He alluded to earlier Greek and Roman works, Homer, Hesiod, Virgil. He freely borrowed episodes and characters from the great epic poets, but he did not provide them as he found them in the epics of other great writers. He could give his own interpretation in his narrative, which made them original. He used metamorphosis as a metaphor because it deals with the transformation as theme. We come across everything from puberty to political change in his epic. So his work can highlight the instability of human beings. Shall we see how Ovid inspired other writers and artists? Ovid's influence has expanded into other countries and even other ages. Dante is a well-known poet. He has made a reference to Ovid in his Divine Comedy. He has addressed him as a master of myth. Geoffrey Chaucer has drawn materials from metamorphosis in the legend of good women. William Shakespeare was one of the great writers inspired by Ovid. He used Ovidian themes of metamorphosis and tragic love in his A Midsummer Night's Dream, Romeo and Juliet, and Titus Andronicus. John Milton, an English epic poet who wrote Paradise Lost, admired Ovid's classical storytelling. Actually, he aimed to surpass it, but he couldn't help admiring the storytelling skill of Ovid. And there are very great writers, even in modern literature, were influenced by Ovid. They are Ted Hughes in his Tales from Ovid and Margaret Atwood, Penelope. These are the great writers were motivated by Ovid. They could reinterpret Ovidian tales from feminist or contemporary point of view. We can see the influence of Ovid in visual art also. The great painters like Titian, Rubens, Botticelli, and Bernini have been inspired by Ovid. We see the traces of Ovid's myths as source material for these painters. Our readers over the ages have been greatly inspired by Ovid. He was able to engage them emotionally. They have been carried away by Ovid's empathy and lyrical style. He succeeded in connecting readers through his epic. He established this kind of connection between readers and mythical characters. Moral complexity is another virtue we find in Ovid's epic. And his focus on great values, great virtues, have been teaching lessons to the readers. They have encouraged readers to reflect on the ambiguity of fate, justice, and love. And his epic has great educational value for centuries. Metamorphosis has been a foundational text in the classical curriculum over the ages because it could shape the literary imagination of Europe itself. And they are relevant even today. The themes of identity, transformation, and voice are found even in a changing world. It's time to conclude. Ovid remains as one of the greatest myth makers and narrators in the world of literature. He is a great storyteller, but he has not merely preserved mythology, but he has transformed it into a vibrant human and eternal tapestry as a picture. His imaginative narratives, emotional insight, and his brilliance in style have made his works a great source of inspiration for playwrights, artists, and readers across the world. Through his great work Metamorphosis, Ovid could teach the change, and he can emphasize change is at the heart of every great story. Thank you. I hope that Ovid has motivated the readers of present day like us to read him thoroughly. Thank you so much.